Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm an intuitive coach and mentor,
And I'm Louisa. I'm an awakening coach and energy healer.
and we're your spiritual besties.
We're just everyday women having an extraordinary human experience.
You see, we've both been led down the path of amazing discoveries through the power of spirituality.
So, we're here to share our experiences as we dive deep into all things sacred.
Our hope is that we can contribute to the collective conversation to help you feel less alone and more confident as you walk the path to becoming more connected with the universe.
We'd love for you to join us each week as we share our discoveries and navigate this journey together. I actually learned something, Kori, from you that I have implemented with my daughter and has literally changed our relationship. One of the times we were chatting, you mentioned that I think it was something to the effect of 15 minutes of like cuddle time, or it was something like very personal.
It's our morning cuds.
Yes.
We call them morning cuds. It's the very
Yes.
first interaction we have during the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I haven't implemented the 15 minutes, but we will lay there together for at least 5 minutes and we either meditate or we just lay there. Sometimes we'll read together. She reads to me, I read to her. But the impact that that has had, those 5 minutes on our relationship, I have never experienced, especially because I grew up in a very broken home and without a mother. That relationship that I already have with my 8-year-old is like, I don't even know many women who have that relationship with their mothers that grew up with their mothers.
Yeah.
So it's been beautiful. And I think this is also part of the importance of like being in community and with other women who are on this spiritual journey too.
Yeah.
And just living their truth, because what we can learn from each other and apply to our own lives and apply to our families and stuff, that effect that we're going to have on the new earth is like amplified, because we're not just teaching our children what we're learning, what we experience, but what other women have experienced too in other families.
Yeah. For those in the audience that are kind of wondering what we're talking about here. So I had this realization that I was not being very intentional with my time with my daughter in the morning. And of course, as you kind of progress in your spiritual journey, you start to understand what really intention is. It's not always just like, right. And like setting an intention and then you go about the day and just live your life normally. No, you have to bring it every minute. I mean, I have so many alarms on my phone to tell me like my word of the day. It's like for real. But what was happening in the morning is I would just roll out of bed and just, it would be like cats and dogs in here. And it was just very stressful. And we would get into a lot of fights in the beginning of the day. And she would be going off. And then I would have the mom guilt. And then we would feel like the suck for the rest of the day, both of us. So I had this thought that I needed to be getting up in the morning earlier to do my meditation to get myself in my right state of mind before waking her up. So I wake up 45 minutes before she does. I do my meditation. I get my tea. I give myself some time to read, to get myself into the space of presence. And then when she wakes up and she comes out of her room and I'm sitting right there in my meditation chair, she crawls into my lap and she just lays in my lap. And we just sit there like that for 15 minutes. And sometimes she wants to talk. Sometimes she falls back to sleep, but whatever. I was like, I am pouring my full attention into her for the next 15 minutes before we start our day. And that's how she wakes up every morning. And it dramatically changed everything. It really did. And it sounds like that's incredible that you started doing something like that too, and how much it's made such an improvement. So, wow.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because what has led from that is we used to, fight mostly about her hair, because I'm like, she's a lot of hair and it's long and oh my gosh. And I would always be like, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. And after we got so much closer, it's like, no, what do you want with your hair? And I tell her all the time, this is what's going to be the healthiest for your hair, but it is up to you to decide what you get to do with it. It's been, honestly, I hope that everyone listen takes away. And I did implement the 15 minutes, but we do like 5, 7
Do
minutes.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's life changing. The relationship, I know, like it just shifted. It took a different turn than it was going down. It was amazing. So thank you. I've actually not shared that with you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I definitely, having 4 kids, implementing 15 minutes with every kid every morning would take up a lot of time.
Oh, sister, I get that.
I don't do it in the morning. Usually it's after they get home from school. And then we will spend time just cuddling on the couch, watching a show. But just that, like, everybody being next to each other. And it's hilarious because literally I'll come out and I will sit on the couch and I will have 4 kids
The
like, just
pile.
like, all on me.
I remember the pile. I'm the oldest of 9. I remember the piles. It's like a kid pile. But that other point, I mean, that's such an amazing point too that you did. The after school moment,
Yeah.
also a very important point. And so you found this amazing intentional moment that you spend with your children, and just these little things. These are the things we're talking about. This is how we change the world here. This is how we shift things. This is how we move, is by stuff like this. It's not the big grand. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the vast majority of us are going to live our lives and we're going to be in a relatively small influence of circle. And this is how we make changes, is by doing and bringing attention into the little daily things, seeing the little problem points and realizing, hey, I can change. I can shift. I can make this better. Better is a good word. That means that like you're progressing towards this life that you dream of, peace, of joy, of connectivity, of everything, like being connected. And we long for that so much. I think humanity is longing for connection, but we miss the opportunities because we're out there searching for the connection when it's really here. It starts here within ourselves, the connection with ourselves, the connections with those that are closest to us. And the moments that we take to do that with intention, on purpose, bringing those qualities into that moment is really what makes the difference.
And it's so funny. You're saying all of this, and it's reminding me that my entire journey actually started with my relationship with my oldest daughter. So when she was little, and still to this day, she is, I forget the term that the pediatrician used, but she requires a lot of effort to parent, right? And so it all started really with that. And it's interesting because I truly believe at this point that I had her as my first child so that I could learn all of these lessons that I've needed to learn that have come after that, right? And so it really started actually with me trying to figure out how to parent her better and how to have a better relationship, because I was losing my crap all the time with her because like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I really don't know. And so it really all started with that. It started with me trying to figure out how to do this better. And then it was like, oh, right, I need to change me because I can't change another person, right?
That's
so,
right.
it all starts with me, and it all starts with me becoming more intentional and getting my own crap together. So then it sort of spiraled off into this journey of really learning about myself, and that introspection and that reflection, and kind of has taken my life in a whole different direction. But it's funny because that really was where it started for me, was actually in that. And I think, you're talking about how this spiritual journey and finding out more about yourself and leaning in affects those relationships. For me, it was almost like, oh, the relationships are what really reflected it to me, that, oh my gosh, I need to figure this out for myself. We are so excited to announce that we have created a brand new Sacred Shift Besties meditation and journaling starter kit, and we're giving it to you absolutely free.
It includes a guided meditation for inner peace created by yours truly,
as well as a beautiful printable journal loaded with prompts to spark self-reflection and gratitude. And you can download it right now by clicking the link in the show notes.
Enjoy!
Yeah, it sounds like they were the catalyst for you. The relationships were the mirror that you needed to be able to see and make those changes inside yourself. Woo, that's really, at the end of the day, I mean, isn't that what relationships are for? They're to help us see and understand and grow ourselves better.
Yeah, I truly believe that will place in your life, for a reason. And that's why, there's just all these different relationships that come along throughout your lifetime, and there's something there to learn from each of them.
That's interesting that we came to this topic, because I feel like that's something that I'm actually exploring, and a very deep part of it right now, and what I'm calling this new cycle, because I feel like I wanted to say rediscovering, but I don't think that's true. I think I went through that cycle last time. I am recreating myself is what it feels like. I get to create myself this time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, who the heck do I want to be? How the heck do I want to do it? Who do I want in my life? What energy do I not want? And it's in the aspect of connection right now that has been pretty magnified for me right now, because I've always shied away from connection. And I think that was part of the fear from the pain, from the trauma that I'd experienced. But I don't have that anymore. So that filter doesn't exist anymore. So it's been very tricky, because it's like, well, what do I want? Because my slate is clean. And it's honestly, it's hard to think about, like, what do I want? Because I literally get to choose. And I don't know. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I want? What energies do I want? Like, what kind of relationships do I want? How do I want my friendships to be? And where I landed right now, which I'm sure the cycle might not be over, is like, I am going to welcome all types of connections and all of the energy that comes along with it, so that I can experience it and then start to filter out, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Because it's been hard coming from, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but coming from a space where none of it is from trauma, where none of it is from fear, where none of it is like, there's no negative energy involved in the choices that I make. It's literally what I want. And that's scary when it's the first time in your life when you get to choose. You get to choose everything.
It's
Yeah,
like you're
I'm gonna
choose
get your map.
you choose your own adventure. It's almost like, as an artist, I look at a blank canvas sometimes, and sometimes a blank canvas can feel very daunting. You're like, what do I put on this? And I think of kind of this also, like like new cycle that I've been going through, particularly with my art, is like I just started picking up paint because I paint with my hands. So I just like pick up paint and I start slapping it on canvas. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I let the universe kind of be random. I'm like, I close my eyes. I'm like picking my paint. I'm like, okay, which one am I picking? Oh, okay, this green. Let's do it. And I stick it on and I slap it on my hand and I throw it on a canvas. And things just start to kind of form. And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's how this painting of these roses that I didn't know I was going to do roses until I started painting. And I was like, oh, it kind of looks like a rose. And then here it goes. And so sometimes we just have to pick up the paint. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. Sometimes you just got to pick up the paint and put it on the canvas. You don't know where it's going when you start. Sometimes you just got to throw something on, and then as you move through it and as you experience, then you start to create it and something beautiful starts coming through. And, you can't see the path while you're looking forward. You have to look back. I don't know how I paint my paintings until I look back and say, oh, yeah, I did X, Y, Z and use this, and that. Like, I don't know half the time when I start what it's going to look like. I mean, I kind of maybe sometimes, but most of the time when I start a mandala or I start a painting, I'm pulling it from the ether. When I sit down and I look at that blank piece of paper, I just throw something on there, and action is the best way to create. I mean, you just go.
Yeah, I fully believe that in accomplishing anything big or doing anything, worthwhile really in your life, right? When you're really doing that and being in that zone, in that creativity and really expressing, you never actually know the how until you get there. Like, I fully believe that we take action, we move forward, we do the things that we feel like we're meant to be doing. And then you get there and it's like, you can look back and tell everybody about how you got there, but you didn't know it when you started. And I fully believe that. And I think that that is actually one of the biggest places that people get stuck on these things. And I feel like I've heard so many stories of artists getting stuck in that place. And then just people in general trying to make a change in their lives. Like, I don't know how to do XYZ. Yeah, that's fine. Like, you don't actually have to know how, but they will literally stop themselves from even moving forward, from taking the first action, because they can't see that path laid out in front of them. People so want a roadmap to follow, right? And that's why you see, oh, your roadmap to this, your roadmap
That's
to
why,
that, right?
that's why we have jobs, okay? Because,
Right.
some of us as coaches, like, because people are searching, and it is like sometimes that road is, you just need somebody to kind of help you, guide you a little bit. And then once you get going, then you're like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get this. But sometimes that start, you do need like a little like pointing, like, hey, try this road here or try this road here. Because we get scared, I think. I think we think that we're going to get it wrong, right? And so we're afraid to try stuff out.
Yeah,
We
failure.
Yeah. And failure, the problem is we're scared we're going to get it wrong, but it's like, by whose standards?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that is one of the lessons that the three of us have learned, obviously, by going for it and doing it, right? Is like, oh, yeah. To me, it's so funny because someone says failure and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, to me, that concept is like, what do you mean? What do you mean failure? Like, you just keep going. You just
Yeah.
keep figuring it out. Like, that was just information along the way. And unless you actually stop and don't allow yourself to move forward anymore, then you're not going to fail.
You
And
can't.
so,
You
right,
literally cannot. You
right.
cannot fail
But
at this thing called life.
and that's not what we're taught, right? That's not how I was brought up. It wasn't like just do whatever and figure it out along the way. Like, no, no one ever said that to me when I was a kid. Like, never. And so I think that that's where it's so challenging because it's such a hugely ingrained fear in humans is like, but what if I get it wrong? Like, what if I fail? And it's like we're made to believe that there will be some sort of repercussions or punishment that will happen, even though no one ever goes through to think, like, well, what would the what would the actual punishment be? Who's gonna come and like tell me I was wrong and then give me consequences? That's not going to happen. But we just are so fearful of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is exactly why people stop themselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, to your prior point about everybody needs a roadmap, I think that's kind of how we ended up here too, is whenever we started to instill fear, then we realized that the way to manage that fear is to make money from people, right? And now we have created all of these institutions and all of these roadmaps, these school systems, and not that there's anything wrong with it, right? But now we all believe that, hey, these are the steps that you're supposed to follow exactly like this to get to the life that you're supposed to have. And that works for some people. That's great. There are people who do, that is their journey, go to school and do all the things, and that's beautiful. But we started to believe the lie that they started to tell us when they realized that they could monetize our fear. And now we freaking live there and we're like camping out there and we think that's like a permanent place that we're supposed to be at. But it's like, no, the fear is what they're benefiting from. The fear that we use to stop ourselves, that we refuse to look inside ourselves and be like, is that even real? Is that fear real? Does it really matter what my neighbor next door thinks if I get a divorce? Does it really matter what my parents think?
I think religion, unfortunately, was a big contributor of that, because the vast majority of people don't want to have to think for themselves. Out of 100 people, 5 people will think that they're thinking, 2 people will actually be thinking, and the rest would rather die than think. And it's an old Earl Nightingale quote. And it's one of those things that we've kind of lost faith and trust in ourselves to make choices and to make decisions. And so it's just easier for us to be told what to do instead of think for ourselves. And I think this is what you're talking about in this kind of business and of leading people. And it's about showing them how to trust themselves again. Because honestly, they're the ones who have the lives to live, not me. I want to bring a community because that's where it's at. It's about the community. It's not about Kori's way is the way. No, if you resonate and you like what I say, then hey, let's jive together. Let's grow together, right? We'll just grow our little flowers together in our little garden. But there's 50 million ways to get to Boston from Indiana, right? You could literally take an infinite amount of roads. And some people are going to want to go the same way. Some people are going to want to go their own way. I mean, I think that's really kind of what Jesus was wanting, right? He was just showing like, hey, here's a way, but there's lots of ways and you're going to find the way in here. And so I guess we've gotten to this point where we're starting this new wave of people teaching people how to come back to themselves, like how to shed all this crap so they come back and they're like, oh, wait, I get to create the ways here.
Yeah, I have to share this because initially I was hesitant to respond, right? We're out here, we're just being ourselves. That's what I do. That's my main thing is I'm authentically myself. And I put out some video talking about the soul, and one of my viewers responded and asked, what is the soul? And I responded by asking them, what is it to you? That's the answer. What is it to you? Whatever it is to you, that is the truth. That's it. And from my perspective in my business, I guide you back to yourself, guide you back to your truth. It's your truth. I'm not guiding you to my truth. I know my truth. I'm guiding you to your truth. And that's where we fail to recognize, I think we can get stuck where it's like, they know better than me, but it's like, well, do they live in you?
I mean, all of our lives we've been taught that there is a right answer, right? Like it's a, multi-choice question and there's a
There's
right
one
answer.
right answer. And
Yeah.
if you choose the wrong answer, then you're wrong. You
Yeah,
failed. You're
got it
done.
wrong.
You know, Willy Wonka, at the end, you're done. You're finished. You get nothing, right? It's like that, but it's not. It's totally bullshit. It's not. There are all the answers, every single answer of every single possibility. The only answer that's the right answer is the one that's right for you, where you're at right now. And that might not be the same answer 10 years down the road because you're continually changing. You are just like the seasons. We go, we grow, we go into rest. There's things that change. And so we are helping people, through these different, I call them portals, right? Like you might use chakras as a portal, right? I use, periods. And so you're getting back into this trusting and this knowing that's always been there the whole time. You just got to find a way in through all the kind of bullshit that's around.
Yeah.
And that's so funny because I think you mentioned that's what we're all doing, sort of the end goal for all three of us in what we are doing, what we're spreading. The message that we're here to convey is, just looking inward and finding what is right for you. But it's funny because I think all three of us have sort of these different methodologies for doing it. And it is also really funny because I think they all relate to our human design in some way. Because, Kori, you mentioned that yours is like this cyclical thing and that, your human design, you're meant to kind of like wait a full cycle before making any major decisions, right? And then Louisa is a manifesting generator. She, pulls energy and she's got the chakra systems and she's kind of working with all of that in her business, right? I am a mental projector and I need to be thinking. And so I do a lot of mindset work, a lot of thought work, and kind of getting rid of those unhelpful beliefs that we've all picked up and the conditioning we've all picked up. So it's so funny because I think all three of us are doing the same work. It's just these different methodologies for kind of trying to get to those same answers for everyone.
We're all basically teaching people how to be Michelangelo. I got to see the Pieta in the Vatican when I was deployed. So it was an experience I had while I was in the Navy just after my awakening that happened while I was deployed in 2010. It was our last port call and we stopped in Civitavecchia and I went to Rome and I got to go to the Vatican and see the Pieta.
So cool.
And I was standing there in front of it. The Pieta is the sculpture of Mary holding Jesus's body. And I, even thinking about it right now, I have chills going through my body. And I was standing there crying in the middle of St. Peter's Basilica, just looking at this statue. Nobody was around me. It was just me. And it was like, just very different than what I thought it was. And I was standing there and I realized it's not about all the things that we're adding. We're just taking away. Michelangelo said that the angel was always inside the marble. I just let him out. And that's really what we're doing here. We're just teaching people to shed all the parts of them that aren't authentically them so that way they can see the angel inside that was there the whole time.
That's a wrap for this episode.
We hope you found some inspiration, a helpful tip, or maybe just a good laugh.
Remember, amazing human, you are not alone on this path to connect with your inner wisdom and the universe.
To stay connected and keep the conversation going, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if this episode resonated with you, share it with your friends, family, or anyone who might find value in it. Until next time.